Today we are going behind the bike at Motive Cycleworks Moto Guzzi in Oklahoma City to meet the man who has brought back the prestigious brand to Oklahoma City after 30 years absence. What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this is going to be Behind the Bikes, and I'm with Don Moomaw of Motiv Cycleworks. This is just the gentleman that brought back Moto Guzzi to the Oklahoma City area for the first time in something like 30 years. So it's awesome to see this brand come back to Oklahoma City. So at any rate, Don, let's talk about what is your passion with this industry and where you started at.
So I started riding motorcycles a long time ago. I don't actually remember when. It was that long ago that I don't remember getting my first motorcycle. I just remember always having them. And throughout my entire life, always had a motorcycle. 2006, I went to Wyotech for upholstery, chassis fabrication, performance engine building, and a few other things. And when I got done, we had a hot rod shop. I worked on hot rods a lot for a lot of people, and then that converted into some of the hot rodders bringing their motorcycles to us, and started working on more motorcycles and more motorcycles and more motorcycles, and motorcycles take up less room in a shop than hot rods do. So we kind of converted all over to motorcycles, and I've always had a passion for the European brands since I can remember. It's always been the European motorcycles that I really liked. I don't have a problem. I also like Harley Davidsons, and we work on a lot of Harley Davidsons, and I have, if you look at the website, I have quite a few vintage Japanese motorcycles. I like motorcycles in general. And it was just that one of the brands that I've always had a passion for was Moto Guzzi. They're built really solid. Really solid. They're built really solid. They're a quality machine, and I didn't see them around anymore. And you don't see them that often anymore. And they used to be, like, you can look at old, my wife was actually watching TV the other night on some 80s sitcom, and she was like, they're riding Moto Guzzis for cop bikes. And that was something that you used to see, and now you don't see that anymore. And it's not because of the quality of the machines went down, it's just because of how big the world's gotten. And Moto Guzzi hasn't tried to keep up with the amount of motorcycles. They're happy with the amount they produce. They're still in the same factory that they were in 1921. They're still in the same factory. So, you know, that's probably a pretty small factory compared to a lot of the manufacturers out there.
Right, and every single one of them is hand built too, correct?
They're all still hand built. They're all still built in the same factory in the same town from the 1921s. And yeah, they are. When you go to their factory, and you'll see people in little white lab coats putting together motorcycles with dial indicators and torque wrenches on the benches. They're all still hand built.
And see, that's what we're talking about. When we talked about Harley a couple of months back, we talked about how they call themselves premium. They're factory built. There's a lot of robots that go into these, but these machines are truly actually hand built, like you said. And you got to go out to Italy. Did you get to see the factory and everybody that was there?
We did not get to see the Moto Guzzi factory. It was too far away. Where we were at, we saw the Vespa factory, because it's Piaggio Group that owns them, and that's Moto Guzzi, Vespa, and Aprilia. And so we're trying to get to the Moto Guzzi factory this year.
Okay.
And they have a really nice tour up there, and there's a lot of information. The Piaggio Museum had Moto Guzzi in it, and some of those things were in it. But I want to go to the actual Moto Guzzi factory.
There you go. So
I'm looking forward to that.
Bring some pictures back, and we'll put them on the channel so that way everybody can see a little bit, hopefully, of what goes on when these bikes are built out there in Italy. So not another factory at all, just that one, and that's really cool too, because they ship them all worldwide. How many do they make a year roughly?
They make 7,000 motorcycles a year worldwide. That's their numbers. Their numbers are incredibly low. I think that their numbers that they make in 1 year are less than Honda sells in the United States in 1 month. And that's one of the things about it. When you buy a Moto Guzzi, you're buying a premium bike, high quality premium bike, and you're buying something that right out the door, there's not that many of them on the road. So you get more of a unique motorcycle.
Right, so when you're riding it, you'll be unique out there instead of a sea of black street glides that everybody sees in the US, or Japanese bikes like the CBRs and the Gixxers and everything like that. You usually see one or the other out there, but you don't see something like this. Now, a lot of people out there in the United States especially don't know much about Moto Guzzi. As he said, it's kind of backed off. So the reliability comes into question a lot of times. What do you know about the reliability of those machines?
I know that when I went to the factory, when I went to the warranty department in the United States to get trained, where they do the service, maintenance, training, warranty, and racing, and anything that they do that's out of the ordinary, they do it in Costa Mesa, California. I went there and I asked for one of these engines, a V7.3 engine, so that I could take it apart and look at it, because we do a lot of competition racing stuff here, and look at what we could do to modify it and change it and bring up the horsepower numbers. And I was told that they would love to do that, except since they brought the V7 engine out, they have not warranted one engine.
And I worked for Harley guys in a year, and we warranted 4. That should say a lot about one engine, and that's the 753. Does that include the 853 engine as well?
The 753 was first introduced. The V73 was first introduced, and then the V9, and then the 1400 series, and now the V85, and they're all introduced off the same base, and none of those engines have been warranted. None of them. And that's a crazy number to think about, that when you really start thinking about that, because I've worked with Ducati, I've worked with BMW, I've worked with Harley Davidson, I've worked with Kawasaki, and every time that I've worked with one of those brands, I have myself warranty replaced an engine before.
There you go. And then another question, of course, with Italian bikes, a lot of people worry about electronics. Did they say anything about that as well?
The electronics on these are really solid. They don't have any real issues. Their fuel mapping is really quality on this. I know that they've had some issues in the past with fuel mapping, but that was really early on, and they haven't had any issues with these bikes. These bikes are really solid bikes. Everything about these bikes is really solid and really quality. And
that's actually kind of another thing he talked about, fuel mapping. He was actually telling me that Moto Guzzi has one of the greatest tolerances when it comes to the fuel mapping and off the stock ECU. What percentage is that?
It was a 25%. It can vary for 20 up and down 25% on the fuel mapping. So you should be able to ride any place you want. You should be able to do some minor modifications to your bike, and you should never have to do anything to the fuel mapping on the bike.
Gotcha. And then what can Motive do for these motorcycles with that 25%? Like, what kind of performance can you do to them, or performance upgrades?
We do make our own custom mufflers. We have a dyno here. We run everything on the dyno. We tune everything with the dyno, and we specifically designed a set of slip-on mufflers for the V7s and the V9s with the dyno, to be a slip-on performance piece that increases your horsepower by about 6 horsepower and your torque numbers by about 2 or 3 foot-pounds of torque, but it changes where all that power comes into play, so it feels like a lot more of a performance increase than just looking at a number. Everybody gets stuck on that horsepower number, and that's the number that everybody thinks about and everybody wants, but where that number is and where those high numbers are really affects how you ride. You know, you got an Indian out there who says, well, we produce 75 horsepower. If it's 75 horsepower, but you're not getting that 75 horsepower to 7,200 RPMs, and it takes forever to get there, are you really using that 75 horsepower? Whereas if you're getting 65 horsepower, and it's down here around the 5,000 RPM range, and it just zips right up to it, you're going to feel like you have a more powerful bike. Whether it's actually on paper more powerful or not, it's going to feel like it when you ride it around.
And whenever you guys see those videos, when I'm on the V9 and that V7 rough, those bikes were equipped with those slip-ons, and you guys can hear the sound, and many have complimented that sound, and it is amazing. And like you said, these bikes take off so well. They're much lighter than a lot of their counterparts, especially the Scouts and the Sportsters that are the same kind of category as this machine behind us, the V7. Even though they're much larger displacements, they're heavier machines, and their engines really don't produce that much horsepower compared to these. Now, you've gotten to ride a bunch of these. When you compare these to, say, a Triumph, maybe the Street Cup or the Street Twin or some of the more modern Bonneville T120s that I haven't even had a chance to ride. I don't know if you've had a chance to ride those, but you compare these with those modern European bikes and maybe the Sportsters and Scouts that are in the same category. Where do you think these fall in at?
As far as performance goes, I like the performance in these. I really do. I like everything about these because they perform as well as those bikes. They're incredibly light for as as built and big as they look, and they have really good brakes on them. They handle really well, but being the V-twin configuration, you know, it's a 90-degree V-twin. Being the V-twin configuration, they feel a lot more lopey, like a big bike. Like when you're sitting there idling, the bike feels physically like it's moving and shaking a lot more, and it feels more like a motorcycle to me. There's a lot more. You get a lot more like personality or a lot more soul out of one of these than a lot of the other motorcycles out there that I feel. And you just feel like you're on something cool and you're on something fun and you're on something exciting. And when you open up the throttle and it takes off with you and you hear it, and the visceral feeling that it gives you is a lot more deep into your heart and your soul than a lot of the other motorcycles are.
And I agree with him on that. I noticed that when I got to ride these, they're so much more soulful, but they smooth out too. I mean, you get the soul when you're sitting still and you get the shake. You pull off the line, you get that slight dive as everything's starting to spin up, and then you kind of feel that thing level out and just it's on rails from then on out. It's amazing how these bikes ride, how they feel, how they corner, and it's just riding them around town, like the Griso, the MGX, everything. They feel so much better than other bikes of their class, and that may be despite some of their sizing, that may be despite some of the things. It's just because they're balanced. They have a better weight distribution. They're not putting everything on the front end. They're putting the weight back toward the back. That way it's giving it a little bit more 50-50, and it makes them ride like that too. You know, can you tell us a little bit more about Motive itself and where you started here, and what you guys can do for everything now as well?
We work on everything, like I said. We do. We work on everything. We have a dyno. We have a machine shop area. We fabricate exhausts. We can do full frame builds. We lace up rims and tires, and we put tires on. We do upholstery work. And paint work. There's nothing you can't get done here. Like, it would be like a one-stop motorcycle shop. If you bring your bike and whatever you need done to your bike, it can get done here.
And that is the original motorcycle shop. A lot of the places here, especially in Oklahoma City area, they've gone to being more of a corporate-owned group. There's a few mom-and-pop shops left, and this is a true mom-and-pop shop, but still, some of those are still more of that modern style motorcycle shop where they're trying to put your butt on a bike, but after that, you may not get the service you're looking for. You may not get a qualified service technician in the back to service your bike, and that can be rough on you too. And you're qualified in what motorcycles?
Well, we're certified for Moto Guzzi, BMW, Triumph, Ducati. I think that is the ones that I actually have qualifications for on right now. We did in the past. I have done Honda and I have done Kawasaki. We can work on all of them. We do work on all of them. You know, we have just a strong passion for motorcycles in general. When you look around the shop, you see many different brands. I'm a Moto Guzzi shop, and on our list right now we have one Moto Guzzi and two Triumphs. You know, it's just the way it happens sometimes. And you know, behind the camera there's a Ducati I'm looking right at. You know, and that's just the way our shop is. It's just a motorcycle shop, and it's a motorcycle shop that we can do whatever you want done. We build a lot of flat track race bikes. We build a lot of vintage motocross bikes. We build a lot of street bikes. We do a lot of drag bikes. I mean, you know, we do quite a bit of everything from easy, just simple maintenance work to all-out builds to making a specialized frame for something, specialized motor work. We have a flow bench over there. We can do your valve, or we can do your valve. We have a valve job machine over there. We have a flow bench over there, so we can flow your heads. We have a performance shop area, and we can do anything you want done to your bike.
And that is something you're not going to find at a dealership. Dealerships are going to literally sell you parts that you add on to it. They might put you on a dyno, but you're going to be paying so much more for everything you're doing because you're buying these parts and putting them on there and then taking it out, outsourcing it possibly because they may not be able to do those components. But with Don, you come in, you can buy your bike, you can put it back here, he can make it a higher class performing motorcycle, and then he can put you back on the road, and when it's time for service, come back in, you get it done here, and you go back out, and then when it's time for more performance, you can do what you want. Just like you said, if you have something in your garage that's been a project you've been kicking around, you can bring that too. There's nobody, not a dealership or anybody else that's really going to do that for you. And that is the true uniqueness of this shop, is that you have everything here and they can do everything for you. And that just simply is the best thing about it. It's mom and pop. Everybody's got such experience in here. You have a partner, it's Eric Colvin. And he's been flat track racing for how many years?
He's been champion for 13. So I'm not sure how many years he's actually, well, he's been actually racing since he was wee little, because his father raced before him. And so when he was old enough to race, he started racing.
So, and there's where there's his backup on that too. He's got somebody who's been a champion 13 times, helping with these bikes and building bikes with his speed shop and stuff too. So, and that's why the CX 500 I'm doing is coming here, is because he can do everything. In fact, off the camera here, and I might take a shot of it, there's one in a box that's being slowly assembled and built, and he's already done the engine, and that's a beautiful engine. I'm thinking of doing some work like that to mine too, and it's just going to be simply getting it here, getting it built up, and having this man take care of it, because he's the only one I trust. And that's what it's about, finding a place that you can do everything and be in one stop, and I can let him touch anything I've got, because we know I have the CB, the Rebel 500, the Vulcan S, and all those in my garage, but I just have to come here from here on out. I don't have to go to a dealer. I don't have to worry about, how they treat you and the corporate type feel and getting hit over the head with things that they mess up on, because I go to shops and I know what happens. I've had things stripped out on my bikes coming back, and it upsets me very much. And now I have one man that can do literally everything. And that's the greatest part. Coming here, getting your bike, and getting it serviced for the life of it, knowing who touched it the whole time. Because another thing about a corporate shop is the mechanics are switching out of there every 5 months. Actually, when I worked at Harley, we couldn't keep a daggum mechanic for but maybe a month or two. And then they'd leave and they'd be gone. We'd have to get somebody else. And you never know who touched it, how they touched it, how they built it. We got different qualities of stuff. When you have one guy, when you have Don, you get quality the whole way, because you have one guy that you come in and work with, and we respect you for that in this community. A lot of us are out here wanting you to do well, and that's why we're going to do this behind the bikes. Don, you have anything else you want to add to it?
Just that I was really excited when I got the chance to get Moto Guzzi, because it's a passionate brand that a lot of people don't know about. But it's been around since 1921. When you think about motorcycle shops being around since 1921, there's not a lot of them. And they've been in production since 1921. They never had to stop production during World War II. They never had any stop production because of money crises. When they had money crises, and when they did deal with World War II and stuff, the workers and the people who own the company just had such a passion that they pushed through everything that they needed to. And it's just, with a Moto Guzzi, you're buying a bike that is a passion project for an entire town. That's how the town makes their money. It's in a little small town in the Alps, and they put it together, and it's a passion project for the town. And everything about it, you can tell just by when you ride one around, and when you feel it, and when you ride it around, you can feel that it's a passion project for the town, and now it's a passion project for the owner of the bike, because that's just the way they are. There's just everything about them is like that, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved with them, and I had the opportunity to bring an iconic brand back to Oklahoma that you don't see anymore. A lot of people don't even know who they are anymore, and it's sad, because it was such a strong band, and it's such a passionate brand, and they're still there. They're still there, and they're still working. It's just that in the United States, with the economies and with everything goes, they just got lost in the shuffle, and now we're trying to bring them back from that area and show people they're still here, and they're just as passionate as they were. They're just as passionate as they were back in the day, and it's still a great quality motorcycle.
And I definitely agree, and hopefully we'll be seeing the V85 coming soon, and we'll be riding that for him and getting that bike out there and letting people see it. And of course, we've helped him out by going to a few rides and stuff around town and displaying them where we could, so that way people can see them. And it does definitely bring back people. We've seen people come up to them and go, I haven't seen one of those in 20 years and 15 years and 30 years. Some guy even said 40 years. The last bike he owned was a California, and that's the last bike he ever saw, basically. So it's back, and we've got the best man for the job here in Oklahoma City. So if you guys, it doesn't matter where you are here in the United States, this man can help you. Give him a call. We'll put his contact information in the description below. Don, thank you so much for letting us talk to you.
You're welcome.
And once again, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. Welcome to Motiv Cycleworks and Behind the Bikes with Don Moomaw, and we'll catch you on that next video.